Getting approval for two types of green cards, that is possible. In 2019, I did it. I applied for EB1 and EB2 NIW or National Interest Waiver. In this video, I'll explain how I did it, but also what was the reason behind doing this. Hi, my name is Oscar and I'm a scientist. In my website, eb2niw.info, I give you information about how to file your own green card and how to successfully get it approved by USCIS. Like I said earlier in the video, I got two petitions for I-140s for green card approved about 3 years ago. The interesting thing is that they were done quite differently. One of them was EB1B, which is the category for outstanding researchers or professors. And that was done by my company. So I had a sponsor and they use attorneys to do that. On the other hand, I did the EB2 and IW all by myself. I learned about this category online and I talked with people that went through a similar experience and I check out resources that I could find and I put together all the package completely by myself without any lawyer helping the process. You may be wondering why? Why two green cards? Is that necessary? Well, to explain that, I'll have to go back and just tell you very briefly my history with the United States. I moved here in 2011. I was an exchange student in the University of Utah, and to spend that 1 year doing that coursework and that research, I actually came under a J visa. Later, I went back to Spain. I finished up my studies. I'm a chemical engineer. And then I finally decided to come back to the US. I went back to Oklahoma to another university, but I did that under a working visa, the infamous H-1B visa. I did 3 years of work there, but at the same time, I started doing my PhD part time. And eventually in 2016, I quit my job as a full time researcher and I dedicated myself fully to finishing my PhD. And I did that in an F visa. So, like you can see, I've been in J, H, and F visas. And the good thing about the F visa is that you have the opportunity to do an OPT once you graduate. And I did graduate at the end of that year, 2016. So that was really nice because then I got that OPT, which allows you to work in companies if they are if the work is related to the degree um, that you graduated from. And then I moved to Boston, where now I'm a scientist in the private sector. As time passed, my OPT was going to run out eventually. So my company was actually very nice to sponsor my H1 visa. Remember that I had already been on H1. So again, I was trying to get an H1 visa, but because of the lottery system, I didn't get picked. And in 2019 was my last chance to get picked before I was in trouble, before I would be out of status. So in 2019, the company also started looking at other ways, and that's how they decided to apply for EB1B to try to guarantee that I could stay even if I wasn't picked in the H1 visa lottery. Working with lawyers in this EB1 process made me realize four different things. Number one is that lawyers are slow. They have a lot of things. They have H1 process going on. They have all kinds of visas that they have to take care, green cards, a lot of clients. And of course, this may not be applicable to all of them, but in general, they take their time. And each step will add more days or weeks in the process. And either you are very patient and you're not in a rush, or you're going to be really wondering all the time what's going on. And when you're working with a sponsor like my company, then you may have to go through another layer, which is the HR department, and they may be the ones talking with lawyers. So that adds a lot of time in going back and forth. Number two is that lawyers are very expensive. In this case, I didn't really care that much because my company was paying for that, but still, I do care about my company. So in a way, I do feel bad that they have to spend so much money. And this is related with number three. I was doing a lot of work. Most of the work is really done by the applicant, even if you have a lawyer. For these EB1, EB2, and AW categories, there's a lot of work that needs to be put in a good application that is strong because you have to prove a lot of items to USCIS. You have to prove you are a person of extraordinary abilities or exceptional abilities, and you work on areas that are of national importance. So the lawyers don't fully understand what you do. They are lawyers. They are not specialized in your area. So you will need to write a lot for them. And at the end of the day, throughout this process, I realized that I was doing most of the work. So why not do it myself? Uh, and then I go to number four. Number four is I really like to be the owner of my own processes, and especially when it comes to immigration, I like to be the one in charge. And in this EB1 process, I wasn't. Somebody else was. And that always made me nervous. I don't want to depend on any company or on any lawyer. I want to be in charge of my own timeline. So I think you really get why I decided to go for EB2 and IW. First of all, because it increases the chances. It's always good to hedge. And EB1B is a higher category, so the expectations are higher also. And EB2 and IW is a little bit lower. EB1, you have to show extraordinary abilities. In EB2, you have to show exceptional abilities, which are a little bit less intense in terms of how much evidence you have to provide. But the bottom line is that I had written so much for the lawyers and I had done so much work that I really had pretty much everything there. I just needed to organize and write a nice cover letter that put everything together. But a lot of the items that you have to show for EB2 and IW are actually included in an EB1 petition. So I just needed to focus a lot on the national importance, proving how my work aligns with the United States interests, and then really craft a good cover letter that summarizes everything and that brought the points home. So remember, I said that the lawyers are slow, in my opinion, or at least that's the impression I had from my own lawyers. Well, it turns out that I actually ended up submitting my I-140 for the EB2 NIW before the lawyers submitted their EB1B petition. And that goes to tell you how much you can do if you control your own timeline and if you are motivated and you are working hard towards the objective that you have. I submitted my EB2 NIW package in summer of 2019, and the lawyers took a few more months to submit their EB1B petition. I actually ended up receiving the EB1 approval before the EB2 approval just because my company used premium processing, which was not available for EB2 and IW. Eventually, I did act on the EB1B petition, the company's petition. They would take care of the last part, the adjustment of status. So I didn't have to worry about that, and I didn't have to worry about the costs of that. But I actually had two I-140s approved in a matter of 2 months. I think they were like 2 months apart. So I could have chose any of them, and at that point I had my own. So if something was going to go wrong with my company, I actually had something to grab onto. If you have any questions about green cards or specifically about EB2 NIW, you can go to my website, eb2niw.info, where I actually uploaded my full petition. It's 200 pages of I-140 petition. And you can see how me, a scientist, was able to actually put together a very strong case. And you can see all the exhibits, all the sections that were there, and you can prepare your own if you want, based on what I did. If you like this video, please give me a like and subscribe to my channel.